Quickly leave your chair, drop to the floor with your body and head down. Follow the directions of our law enforcement personnel to keep all of us safe. Stay calm and shelter in place and follow the instructions, as I mentioned, of law enforcement. I'd like to call to the podium at this time Terry Turrentine, the pastor of Deliverance Tabernacle Church, Cogent, to share a community prayer. Pastor Turrentine.
Psalm 118 and 24 states, "This is the day which the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it." Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for allowing us to gather here today. We thank you for your love and your grace and the blessings that you bestowed upon us. We thank you for your generosity and all abundant love. We pray that you bind us together as a community with like minds and allow your wisdom to overtake us, that we may do your will and carry out your way. Because we know that all things work together for the good of those who know God and are called according to his will. Amen.
I'd like to thank right at the beginning all the law enforcement personnel and fire personnel who are here, who are tasked to do their job. That's important also for building community. The solution to complex social problems in gangs is not more cops. Although law enforcement is critical, we cannot arrest our way into peace on the streets. We need a broad, perhaps painful conversation on community violence. How do we keep our precious young men from turning to the streets and to guns? How can we strengthen our families? How our neighborhoods, our places of worship, our meditation to provide support, guidance, and correction? How do we restore the role of our elders in helping to problem solve and to lend their wisdom to these young lives? How do we become more effective in helping young men and sometimes women to make better choices? We look to the groundbreaking work of Flint Ridge Center, Father Gregor Bull, and our local leaders, Mark Sutton, Ricky Pickens, DeAndre Scott, and others who are helping to mediate pathways forward. I want to thank all of you who have joined this emergency community meeting. By your presence tonight lets us all know how important this conversation is. Now, I'd like to give a quick shout out to a young man who grew up in this community. Many of you know him. He's moved away, but he has responsibilities that overlap and come into our jurisdiction. His name is Marlon Andrews. He is a Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation Special Agent, and he's going to be helping Pasadena Police Department. I don't know if they knew that, but he's going to be assisting. Marlon, are you here? Marlon Andrews, give him a round of applause. I also see the president of the Pasadena branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Alan Edson. It's always a pleasure to have the NAACP, the most feared organization working for the rights of people, all people. So with that, I'd like to welcome Mayor Victor Gordo, who has shown a strong interest in providing solutions to the problem. Mayor Gordo.
Please keep your mask on and ask to remind everybody. Glad to see my friend Bo, Marlon Andrews, who played at Muir High School. Actually, we played baseball together, played football together. He was at Muir, I was at PHS. So it's always good to see friendly faces from our past. So coming back to help out in this moment of time. Bo will tell you that, like all of you here, I love Pasadena, and I love this park. We grew up in this park playing Little League. We grew up in these neighborhoods, and I'm very concerned about what's happening with our young people. I'm very concerned about the safety and welfare of the people in this neighborhood. I don't live too far from here. I live probably less than a mile from here at Madison Avenue. And so, like many of you, and I see some of my neighbors here, I'm concerned about what's happening in our neighborhoods. I'm concerned about what's happening in our parks. And I gotta tell you, as we look for long-term solutions, and we do need long-term solutions, in keeping young people away from the gangs and away from the trouble that ends up with violence in our parks and on our streets. But we also have a responsibility to do something in the interim. We have a responsibility to ensure that the young people who were here the other night out on the field, as Lauren and I used to be, feel safe participating in the activities, because that's a big part of preventing young people from falling into the track of despair, from falling into the track of, there's nowhere for them to be, nowhere for them to hang out. When Lauren and I were growing up, we had Little League, and we felt safe in all of these parks. And that's Marlon, and it's been probably 25 years since I've seen Marlon. But we were growing up playing Little League and playing football with the Harrisons and everyone else. And our young people deserve the same thing today. We deserve an opportunity to feel safe in our parks and in our neighborhoods, as all of you do. And so when we think about long-term solutions, let's also think about the interim solutions. And that's why we're all here, because we need to do better in this neighborhood and every neighborhood than what we're seeing at the moment. We need to do better for our kids, ensuring in the long term that they will on the right track and become one of the neighbors, or a park like Harris Center. Well, it's probably the wrong example, but that see a track and a way to stay on a positive course. And I got to tell you, that means that we need to have more presence of city staff in the park. We need to have more presence of park safety specialists in the park and in our neighborhoods to ensure that people feel safe without taking our eye off the long term. And that means giving people an opportunity, young kids an opportunity in our neighborhoods to find their way through life, as many of us have grown up in these neighborhoods have done. And so I'm here to listen. I'm here to think carefully with all of you what the solutions are from your perspective, both short term and long term. And I look forward to, once we finish this night, joining with John and other members of the City Council, including our Vice Mayor, to do collection as your representatives to the city staff on how to resolve these issues.
I want to thank Mayor Gordo. When I had breakfast with him recently, he committed to doing everything that he could to help us find solutions as a partner for District 3. But not just for District 3, as he said, for all the districts, being mayor of all the people of Pasadena. So I want to again thank you, Mayor Gordo. Now I'd like to ask City Manager Steve Ramel to come up, and he will introduce, after he provides his remarks, the Deputy Chief, Cheryl Moody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming out, but apologies for the events that bring us all here. It's always tragic in the wake of community violence, and certainly all of you have a lot of questions. We will provide the answers that we have with you this evening And as the mayor and council member indicates, that there's both a near-term response and then there's a longer-term response. And oftentimes it's the longer-term hard work that's a little more challenging. In a moment, I'm going to turn it over to our deputy chief, Sheriff Mooney. She's going to talk about the latest incidents of violence that the community is experiencing. What I want to talk about is some of the steps that we're taking in addition to a police response. Councilmember Kennedy mentioned Ricky Pickens. Ricky, bring your hand over there. So Ricky Pickens, some of you may know him. He's been working with us for about a year now on doing some direct interaction with people who are involved with gangs or may drift into that. In the wake of an incident, there's often retaliation. And Ricky and gentlemen that he works with, including Mark Sutton and others, Mark here as well. Oh, sorry, okay. They work to bring the tension level down to really sort of get in front and to stop further bullets from flying. So I want to recognize Ricky and Mark and the good work that they're doing. It's vitally important, and it works on a level that the police department can't. And so it's just another tool for us. Some other things that we're looking at in this immediate area, sadly, the park and the council's done such a nice job reinvesting in this beautiful facility. People should feel safe in the park, as the mayor mentioned. We know that for a long time there's been concerns with the parking lot here and Morton Street. One of the things I've asked the transportation department to do is to take a look about converting Morton into a one-way street going northbound, no parking on the west side, and then angled parking on the east side. We think that might help minimize some of the loitering and some of the other activities that go on. It's not something we'll do immediately. We'll be out here talking to the neighbors. I see a couple of heads shaking. Whenever you try to change a street, people have their opinions, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. And that's one of the things that we're trying to consider, whether some design, sometimes your environment can help to minimize whether areas are nice to hang out in or problematic. Another thing we're looking at, and attitudes have really shifted over the last couple of years about cameras. Recently, the city council approved the installation of security cameras at Villa Park Community Center. We have some community development block grant money available to us. We think it would be a good idea to install video cameras on this building to cover the perimeter of the building and also into the park. If you think that's a good idea, I'd love to hear from you. If you think that's a bad idea, I'd love to hear from you. Again, we would have some community meetings to get input. Ultimately, it would be up to the city council. But it seems like people's attitudes about video cameras have changed over time. They're more willing and more accepting because they realize we live in a society where everything's being filmed anyway. Why shouldn't we have that as a tool in an investigative process? So those are some of the things that we're working on. Oh, one last thing I'll mention. The council also approved an investment in technology that allows the police department to identify when shots are fired up to 82 feet of accuracy. So we get calls for shots fired, but oftentimes it's difficult to know exactly where it's coming from. People hear something, they're not sure. Or sometimes, sadly, people don't call the police. Because I saw an email just today. Late last night, someone heard a noise. Turned out it was actually fireworks, not gunshots. But they didn't call it in. They admitted they didn't call it in. Because sometimes people say, what's the point? Well, this technology allows the police department to know when, in fact, actual gunshot has occurred. And it tells them within 82 feet of accuracy where that is. That increases the response, gets the police there quicker, and heaven forbid, as a victim, it also gets the fire department there quicker for emergency medical response. So we think that's a good thing. It will start to be implemented in the next couple of months, subsequent to the council approval. So thank you. Let me turn it over to our deputy chief, Sheriff Mooney, and I, along with the rest of the city panel, of course, to be here for the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. We, the police department, we are aware of at least 6 shootings since last Friday, resulting in 4 people being shot. So it's important that the community knows that the police department is committed to stopping this recent gun violence that is currently plaguing our community. These are not random shootings, but they're targeted towards those believed to be involved or associated with local gangs. I know there was a rumor out there that Blacks are being targeted. That's not true. It's just the Blacks and Hispanics who are believed to be involved with gangs. So the recent violence is really, really troubling for many reasons, but particularly unsettling is when it occurs where there are children present. And that's what happened here so far. Violence in any part of the community impacts the entire city of Pasadena. So I'm so glad that this group or people that are here represent the entire city. So we are deploying, we, the police department, are deploying all available resources to the areas in which the shootings occur. So all the shootings were not just specifically in Northwest Pasadena, so we're going to be deploying to wherever we receive shots fired or someone was shot. We will also continue to partner with other entities such as Parks and Recs, Public Works for graffiti abatement. Because remember, once you start seeing graffiti going up on the walls, that's the gangs telling you there's going to be activity. So if you see gang graffiti, please hold it. We'll also continue to work with, like the city manager said, with Ricky Pickens and Mark Sutton, who are gang interventionists, and of course the clergy. We have a really good relationship with the clergy and want to keep that relationship going. To be sure, and I'm sure you all know this, it will take all of us working as a community to stop this recent trend for violence. And I understand that many community members don't want to call in, don't want to give information, they're hesitant to call. But please remember, you can call in anonymously, but we also have what's called WeTip. You can call in anonymously to WeTip with any information you have related to the shootings, anything you've heard, anything that seems suspicious to you, because you never know if the information you call in is valuable or not. And we won't know unless you tell us. So please call in if you see anything, if you know anything. Like we always say, if you see something, say something. If you know something, call in. I don't want to call the police department again, call the WeTip hotline. And we have pamphlets here that you can pick up. So you have that phone number readily available. So with that, are there any questions for me?
At this time, I'd like to entertain any questions that you may have. May I get someone to speak your question very succinctly, and the speaker that you're addressing it to, let us know. They will repeat the question for those who are staying at home, who are at home, to ensure that they have heard your question. So be as succinct as you can, and we'll just keep it rolling because your questions are critically important. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm a football mom. So we were here when everything happened. What we want to know is, we have 2 more games left, and we have a lot of parents who pull it out because they're scared. We want to know what the police department is going to do to get ahead of this. So for our last 2 games, we want to have police out there with us, so the parents will feel safe about bringing their kids back, so we can play their last 2 games. That's one of our main concerns is how do we get the police officers to partner with the football field so we can have just a police person on site. Like that's one of the main concerns.
Okay, her question was, will the police department be at the park during practices and games with the adults? Well, yes, we have developed an overall game plan for that. So for every game in the park, every practice in the park, you will have at least 2 officers stationed here and other officers in the surrounding areas. So we want to have officers in the park specifically. Again, for all practices and all games. Yes, sir.
I was here as well as the rest of y'all was shutting down. It's meant to have large amount of gaming activity, consecutive to the book fest. So, each one of us rationale, and we definitely take that back.
Yes, his question was, why did we step down the game unit? Well, when Chief Perez took over, we did a reorganization of the police department. And what we did with the gang unit, we took them to make so that it's more intelligence gathering. So they're not just on the street. We were making complaints that the gang officers were just stopping people randomly. And so it wasn't really beneficial at the time. So now it's better the way they are because we get more gang intel, we're getting information. Like the shootings that occurred in Villa Park last summer, all of those investigations were completed, right? All those people are in jail who did the shooting was because of the intelligence gathering. So we are looking at maybe making a hybrid of the gang unit and CIU, but we'll see how that plays out. Yes, sir.
In relation to gang activity in the very sense, it just seems like there's a strong correlation between shutting down that unit and the increase in gang activity. So I guess I would exhort you to make that hybrid attachment.
We'll definitely look into that, but as you know, gang violence across the nation has increased. You know that? Yes, sir. We will definitely look into that. Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is Mokiri Boswell. I have two questions. One, I'm disappointed that nobody from the Pasadena Unified School District is here. Because this deals with our kids and they deal with our kids, and I like to see a little bit more involved. The other thing is, I would hope in the past, my experience with the police department, when we have this type of activity with gang shootings or gang violence, that they inundate the community with law enforcement and traffic stops. Right? We don't need a bunch of traffic stops. We'd like them to come and patrol, but I think if they're there, that they do a response and not a reaction. So I want to make sure the police that are coming in the neighborhood are coming in to enhance us and not stop everybody that has a rolling stop sign. You can give them a warning or whatever, but you know, $476 ticket is costly for a lot of people in this community. The other thing, the other question is, could we not possibly use some of the fields instead of concentrating on right here? We have a lot of Pasadena High School District fields, and maybe if we divvy them up a little bit amongst the teams, when you have the team, there'd be a smaller group and not so much concentration in one area. So it's just a partnership between the city and the school district. Thank you.
Well, I think the question related to utilizing the different fields will come from Parks and Recs when Brenda Harvey Williams comes up. But as far as the other question with the enforcement, that yes, the police department is going to saturate the areas where the shootings occurred. What you all may not know, in the last 6 months, we've taken like 68 guns out of cars, right? So we prevented at least 68 other shootings from occurring, and those guns were taken out of vehicles on traffic stops. So yes, we don't want to abuse our power to stop vehicles, but it really does enhance what we're trying to do when we make those traffic stops and get those guns out. But we do, our plan is to come up here to be in the community, to be professional, but also provide safety to residents. Thank you.
Can you share what you're learning from those being arrested or from the gang?
From those being arrested, not a lot, because the way the current laws are, they know they're not going to stay in jail very long. It used to be, sometimes they would give us information to be able to get out early or different things like that, but now with the way the new laws are, there's $1 bail. If you get arrested, a person can get arrested with a gun, pay $1 and get out of jail. So what's the point of giving information so many of them don't? Okay.
Okay, we're a brief. I know she said make it brief. It's gotta be brief. Oh, question. Can you guys elaborate to the community? Why did you guys drop the ball? Because we had this meeting already with the Pasadena Giants and our families and our parents, and you guys had the police up here, then you left. And so we had an incident
So my question is can you explain to the community why did the Pasadena police drop the ball on this shooting that just happened on Tuesday?
Well, thank you. Well, as far as dropping the ball, unfortunately, we can't be at every shoot. We can't predict when a shooting's gonna happen. We can't be everywhere all the time. But I know initially when the game started, the practices started, we were here. And so there were no problems. And so when the shooting happened, the cops were around the corner. So they were still in the area. So that's why they got there so quickly at the shooting. But since the shooting, yes, we do understand now there's a need to have the cops in the park on foot. Well, I will say they were in the area. It's not like we stopped them from coming. It's just that they weren't stationed here. But now they will be stationed in the park.
Yes, my name is Pasadena, and I'm very concerned about what is going on in our community. I've been living here in this district for 55 years. And I look at it, our kids are not getting work. And when you get people coming into the country, a lot of this is blame on America. They're blaming on America, but they have not taught people that's coming in how to get along with the descendants of American slaves. Nobody is playing that ditch up. And we have to get this here for they understand, people that come here understand how to get along with the descendants of American slaves who have paved the way and built this community. Our community is beginning to get moved out, and it's really kind of a problem. And one other question, I think we should bring the marshals in to take care of this, because Pasadena police is just overrun. You really need to bring the marshals in to take care of this problem.
So I've been admonished that when you're speaking, if you can hear me, we can hear you through your mask. And if you would keep your mask on when you ask your question, that will ensure the safety of everyone. So thank you for that. And please continue to hold the mic, Thank you.
Well, so as far as the marshals are concerned, we do have an element of the marshals that works with the police department. But as far as teaching others who come to our country how to act, how to behave, it's not really the police department. It's not in our role.
A couple more questions from representative.
Oh, where's the mic? Okay.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for being here. First of all, 4 years ago, I met John Kennedy at a meeting. I asked him a question. Can you move the parking to Waterfall? And he was talking about the street, Boston Street, between West East Manhattan and Gloria Street, to close it completely. And for 4 years, it doesn't serve any resident of Pasadena. Only 2 days. So the question is, 4 years ago, I did give you a plan of this Jackie Robinson park. What did you tell me? What was your answer? I grew up in this neighborhood. It's not a racial, or a color. I don't see people behind my fence. What color are they? I can tell. It's behavior.
Sir, thank you for your question. Briefly, because I think you came in. Sir, let me answer your question. Sir, it's not a question if you don't let someone answer. You stepped in a little late. Regarding Morton Street, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're looking at making it one-way street, no parking on the west side, diagonal parking on the east. We think that will help reduce some of the longer.
you got your questions there.
Hi, my name is Jessica Rodriguez. I'm the community.
Get out! Get out!
My brother was shot and killed. You may have your attention, everyone. My brother got shot on November 13th on Park Street. I'm ready to meet with most of you. Why you guys struck the ball at Villa Park? You waited for 2 more persons to die to have someone going around to Villa Park and patrol the park. Okay? Why you guys struck the ball? And why you want another shooting there? No, ma'am, we don't want another shooting there. And if it appears that we dropped the ball, you know, I do apologize, but again, like I said, we can't be everywhere all the time, but we do our best. We do our best to control the community and keep everyone safe. Can we get the mic over here? Okay.
Two police here were the day of the shoot. So just, I just want to understand something.
Yes.
No, I don't take that stuff. I have to go on. So, I said, so when there's 2 police cars here or police here that day, how fast it happened, and then when there's a Rose parade and everything, and the paddy wagon is here, what makes these kids any less important to not have that type of security? From here, but we can't even utilize the concessions up here because of so much. 2 police is not enough, and walking police is not enough. They need to be stationed on every single corner. I mean, I get it. Like, what can be done? What can the budget be up or something? So there can be more police support, because I get it, they were here, but it's not enough. Of course, we'd love to have a cop on every corner, but you know, the budget doesn't allow that. But I will tell you, with this current deployment plan that we put together, I know I said there's 2 cops stationed in the park, but the rest are in the area, right? So before, there were not 2 cops stationed in the park. They were just in the surrounding area, circling the area. But now we're going to actually put them on foot in the parks. We weren't doing that before. So with this current deployment, that's what it's going to look like. The day of the shooting, they weren't here. They were in the surrounding area. So just so you know, with this recent deployment, there's at least, 50 cops? At least 50 cops involved in the saturation of these areas where these shootings have occurred. And for one is high visibility, we're hoping to prevent the shootings. 2, with the visibility, we're hoping to be right there when the shooting starts, so we can take people that need to go to jail, or the shootings need to go to jail.
Thank you. Do you have another question?
Yes, one question related to the loitering at the park. Where are you supposed to loiter if you can't loiter at a park? And what is wrong with loitering? So that's one question. And then the second question is, we did have an incident, the police came out. What appeared to happen is that they resolved the incident, but I noticed that police officers started to, what appeared to run the plates of the cars that were parked along the street. And I don't know for sure that he was doing that, but that's what it looked like. And my only question or statement would be, can you communicate with the community if you're going to use those types of interventions so people know, and maybe you can have some say in it, whether or not you're going to do that type of thing, how you're going to approach this problem?
You mean as far as people that are hanging out in the park and they're being accused of loitering? No. Can you give them the mic back real quick? Can you repeat the first half of your question?
Well, there was a statement that there's people loitering in the park. So my question is, if you can't loiter in a park, where are you supposed to loiter? The park is probably where we want people to be. So why are you going to do things to shut it down? We understand it needs to be safe, but that doesn't mean you just, stop people from being in the park.
Right, and we don't want to do that. But what you may not know is we get a lot of calls, a lot of complaints of people being in the park, particularly when the kids are here playing sports, that people are cursing, they're smoking weed, they're drinking, and those people that call expect us to come do something. And we do try to fight people if we can, because they do have a right to be in the park. But if they're violating the law, we do what we have to do. And sometimes the parents don't understand that we can't just chew these people out because we can't.
It sounds like that's the plan, is to try to shut that down.
We just want to shut down the bad behavior. Like, we want our kids here. We want them in a safe and enjoyable environment. If we smoke, we blow in their faces, they hear about this person, about music, we try to limit that as best we can, but stay within the law. And as far as running the license plate, I'm not sure what was going on with that.
Okay, we have another question right there. My name is Courtland Bridges, and my question is to everybody on the panel. So for the families, don't wait until we've lost our children. I lost my daughter. I didn't lose her here in Pasadena, but my family is longtime residents of Pasadena. Don't wait until they've lost their children. Some of these parents could have lost their children. There's many people here who have known people who have lost their children, but there's a program for the community that have been taken away. What about programs for the mothers who have lost their children, the kids, who have lost their parents to gang and gun violence? You all need to bring that back. Thank you. Do you understand the question?
I did. I think I have some questions over here too. I think as far as bringing back programming and there are many organizations in the city who are there for grieving parents and family women and different things like that. There are different organizations within the city that we do work with, but we, specifically the police department, we don't have that in place.
I'm a member of several organizations in Los Angeles. I shouldn't have to know it's right. I shouldn't have to try to tell different instead of tell different others, hey, what if they go and make up all these resources? And at the end of that, for some of these mothers, we could be doing something here. We just have to want to throw away something.
Just 1 second. I agree with you. And I'd be willing to work with you on any of the mothers that you work with to find the resources to bring programs that you think will be effective for what you're doing in LA. If you see effective programs there, I want to know about it. I commit to you to advocate to my 7 colleagues that we would do something, and hopefully we'd get that 5 votes to do something in the line of what you're talking about. As an example, we needed a pool up here. $5 million we didn't have. We found the $5 million, and then they told me we needed $500,000 more. So I went to Catherine Barter, the supervisor, and I said, hey, supervisor, we need additional $500,000. So if she can find $500,000 through the county, I'm committing to you and the mothers that you work with. You tell me the program, I'll go get behind the program to bring it to Pasadena to make it effective here as well. So you have that commitment from me, and I'd like to work with you to that end. Thank you.
One of the things that I'm going to be proposing again as we go into the budget season is that kids shouldn't, so many of the families who can't afford to be in the programs at the park, I've watched, and we've all watched, as the cost of having kids participate in these programs has gone up. And that's impressive because then kids and families who have 3 or 4 kids can't afford to have kids participate. And I think that's a cost that the city should bear instead of families. And so go ahead and propose that in the budget season. And I hope that some of you who participate in those budget discussions will come out and support and get the 5 votes that Mr. Kennedy is talking about to push those costs back down so kids can participate in all these programs. Because we do want kids in the park.
Yeah, just one more thing to do.
I can guarantee you, if the mayor says we're gonna find the money, we're gonna find the money. I'll leave it at that.
And one other thing, I was just reminded that the police department has a wellness unit that just started, and it's not only for the officers within the department, it's also for families of victims, that we will have resources available for them, or provide them with information for resources. So that is available to police departments.
Okay, thank you very much. A couple more questions?
This message is for you, Chief. Can you tell us what's caused this spike in the recent events? That's the first part of the question.
Well, we can always speculate and guess what happened, but we're thinking it's some retaliations from shootings from last year that just goes back and forth and back and forth.
The second part of my question, because I heard you speak on it earlier, have the victims been identified as gang members? Because I heard you kind of say this is not fake off. And for us on this side of town, the incident that took place here was just one of many where we've been targeted. And yes, it doesn't look like these are gang or shooting, but actually that's about Americans being targeted when we're the heaviest in numbers in this side of the community. So the incidents, including last night, that took place in the car, the kids that were inside the car, they wasn't hanging out. Right. And that majority of the population outside this park is normally older women with some males, but the kid was targeted. Right. So when you say it's not them targeting us, we as residents of the park, we have to disagree because we so far our numbers on an everyday, hopefully not today, have been the victims.
Yes, so I'm just basing it on our investigations of the shootings that have occurred. So we have our victims here and we have our suspects, and we have some idea of who they are, the suspects. But the victims, what we know is, what we believe is that, the suspect is gang related, and they're believing, that suspect is believing that victim is somehow gang related. So we haven't had people, moms and dads shot on the street, or kids, young people, yes, but, and like I said, they're not necessarily gang members, but the rival gangs, if you want to call them that, believe that victim to be gang related.
I know all of them. I know a story.
Yeah, Ricky, you want to come up? Ricky Pickens?
Yeah.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. How many guys identify these kids that are victims of gang members?
But see, that's it. We are not saying they're gang members. Right. We're not saying they're gang members. It's the rival gangs who believe they are. And what you're saying, none of them should have got shot. Enough.
Another question?
Okay.
I'm a mother I have 3 boys on the football team, the Pasadena Giants. Yesterday, or whatever day it was, Tuesday, it was heartbreaking to have to see my kids drop to the floor because of the incident that happened. So I know Mr. Kennedy said moving long term, I'm very hesitant of putting my kids back on this team because of where the location is. But moving long term, I know Jack Robinson here, they have after school programs for the kids. We have our football stuff. But long term, what is it going to take for the police to stick around, whether there's violence or not?
So we do have our community relations section of the police department, and they're often here for outreach. But remember, just because they're up here for outreach, they're still sworn officers. So they're here frequently, they're in the centers. Again, for practices and games, we will have officers there. That's my commitment.
Thank you, that answers your question. Thank you. We have another question here.
My name is Jose Santana, and I want to first address the marginalization and the villainization of people of color in every community in America. I'm an indigenous Afro-Asiatic man. I moved here about 5 years ago, and it's the same story from New York to here. That when we get shot, when we get hurt, it's gang violence. And it's not us being targeted, just like we've been targeted by the people and the colonizers that have come in and push us out of everyone. And so before we start villainizing and keep villainizing our kids and other members of our community that have been in this country, that have been in this nation since before it was founded in 1776, my question is, why aren't you guys making more avenues for teaching artists, like myself, other people, to be able to share different programs with these kids? Because boredom is how they get into these things. And because we have a society that praises drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and we're trying to still on the right while we're cutting it off. It makes no sense. And then the disproportionate budget, $1 billion from LGBT programs and the public services. $250,000. That's a disparity in resource allocation.
I think long-time leader in our community, Rosario Cross, made an excellent suggestion. He noted that PUSB was not in the room per se, and that is certainly a PUSB question to be answered in part. And so we will commit that we'll take that information, not just back through our city manager, but directly as elected to the Pasadena Unified School District. So thank you for that information. It is helpful.
Thank you for your patience.
Real quick before the next question, I'd like to ask Ricky Pickens to come up and talk, because whenever I'm in these kind of meetings, and sadly I've been in a lot of these over the years in our community, a lot of the questions are, is this just random violence? Are people being targeted because of their race or their ethnicity? I'm going to ask Ricky to explain, without going into too much detail, but just generally what his perception of the nature of a lot of these incidents, is to try to give everyone a little bit of a better feel of the dynamic. So Ricky, if I could jump on.
Is that all right? I'm gonna take my breath. Good afternoon. Let me say this, because I'm from here. I'm born and raised. I play Little League baseball right outside here and grew up with a lot of y'all. And so I'm not going to talk as the panel talk. I'm going to talk because I'm from here. I grew up right here. And this is, let me be very clear. There are so many resources in this room. All you guys got all the answers. They don't. Okay? So they really need more collaboration amongst us in here versus the silos and everybody. Because we need to see you go back to what we do. But you need to get behind more people like what Derek is doing and some of the other people. It's so many. I mean, Porfirio, I think Nelly, when we talk about the school district, they got our kids most of the day. There's so many things we can do here, but we spend a lot of energy expecting them to give us the solution when all the solutions are right out here. Courtney said it best. We need a lot of stuff when it comes to these programs. These programs are band-aids. We do a little bit, we throw a little bit here, and then they disappear. But understand something about programs. Programs are people. So when the program disappeared, the people disappeared, and those are people that these young folks out here build relationships with. And then they're gone. So they go back to being out here. And so the reality of it is, this stuff is going to continue to happen if we don't start addressing these young folks out here. People like her who grew up here. I watched her grow up right here. And her brothers in them back there who are very influential, amongst these guys out here. But we got to put the support back there. Now, let me talk about the gang thing. Here's what's happening here around this gang stuff. When you call
the word is there's a green light on blacks. You gotta be careful and understand. And you may disagree with me, but I'm not brand new to this. 27 years. Okay, so I've been doing this a long time. And the reality is, language is important. So when you call a green light on blacks, and I do know, and I hear what Antoine said, I have to call him by his name because I grew up with him, my God. When you say some of these folks are misperceived as gang members, what happens is that it's areas. You got gang hotspots, you got gang territories, you got places where people are seen. So people forget, or people don't understand that when these guys are out and they're looking for targets, it's anybody that's close to that. Now, of course, if young Tina out here riding around, they're not looking for her. They're looking for anything that looks close to that. That looks like this is the description of what we're talking about. So I get what you're saying, Antoine, in terms of, these guys are not this, they're not that. Listen, we've seen a lot of innocent people. I know because they're families, they're people we know. We've seen a lot of people go down that's been mistaken identity. These kids on Sunday. Not right. You know what I'm saying? But the reality of it is, when there's a war going on, there's a difference between a gang member and a gang banger. Right now, gang banging is going on. So the best thing that we can do in this community, and I'm just going to call it, is you can argue at me and fight at me later. I'm fine. I'm big enough and strong enough right now. But when there's gang banging going on in this community, this is what we do. You tell your babies, don't you wear no attire that look like that. Come on, I'm going to be somebody's dad and somebody's uncle. Don't wear an attire, don't look like it, don't walk like it, don't be in an area that looks like it. And keep your baby close. 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, your 16-year-old kid should be in the house and not standing outside in front of that house. I'm gonna call it what it is. My son ain't gonna be standing outside, and I know something is wrong. Bring you in the house. Because I don't know who they looking at. So we gotta take some responsibility amongst ourselves, and we police our communities. We tell our babies, get your son in the house, bring your daughter in the house, tell them such and such and such. When I'm like, tell them such and such, that man that's touching on your daughter, tell it. Let's stop playing this game. Listen, I go back and forth with Mr. Kennedy, with the mayor, and all these folks. I don't like trying to play games. I've been doing this too long. I've been accused of everything but the right thing. So many people I've helped and done so many things, and people get mad because why? Because Ricky Pickens worked alongside some folks to say we need more people on the inside of the police department to help them make better decisions about what they're doing about us. But instead, we start saying that person is this, that person. No, that person's trying to make a difference so that we can educate the deputy chief to say, you're enforcing the wrong people. She don't know that. She's a police officer. She's a black woman, but she's a police officer. She's going to do what she do. But we got to say, hey, you're in the wrong area. Get yourself over there and leave us alone. So when it comes to this stuff, y'all are the answer. Y'all are the answer. She got a lot more influence than anybody that can do any over in the region, but we got to do it together.
Okay, thank you.
Questions for Ricky?
For the gentleman that was speaking, he has a question.
I got an answer. Oh, yes, you do.
Yes, sir, because see, first of all, I agree with you on these things, because I grew up here. I'm 70 years old. I grew up here from a childhood, knowing that what's been going on around this neighborhood, that's been happening. Yes, I disagree with you about our parents. Our parents is carrying on. We need to bring about ourselves to our legacies. We need to come to our neighborhoods and tell these youngsters and show themselves to be different in life. Show them where their experiences are really alive to. Not only blacks, we're talking about all race. Their parents need to be with do the same things about our legacies. We're talking about freedom, yes, sir, understanding, and love. And we got to show this to our community. That's all I have to say, bro.
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Gina. I live on Hammond and Summit nearby. So this is more directed towards city council, since they oversee the budget. So community intervention workers play an important role in public safety. They don't just reduce violence, but they also prevent violence, providing reentry, and providing resources needed like employment. Will the city invest in more community intervention workers? 2 workers is not enough for a city of 140,000 people. Kenya already invested thousands, if not millions of dollars into intervention work, and they saw a reduction in crime. This is pre-COVID because COVID played a large role in violence. I want to see the city invest and provide resources to Ricky and to other intervention workers that know the community, because it's not police officers that are going to help provide these resources. It's like people like Ricky. I've never met Ricky, but I think he can make the change. So can the city really invest and provide resources to Ricky and community intervention work? Thank you.
So let me respond to that. So we brought Ricky on about a year ago for 6 months. And now it's been a year, and we brought on Mark, and we brought on DeAndre Scott, and we've extended them for next year, and we brought on a 4th person. It's my hope that over the course of the next year, working closely with Ricky and through the city manager's office, with the guidance of the council, we can build out a more robust violence prevention initiative, because it's great what they've been doing, but we need more. And I would like to see us structure that. You can throw money at something, but if you don't have the right structure, it's really not going to work. So it really needs to involve our clergy and other community members coming up with a strategy that's going to work. Everyone's been mentioning the school district will need us to partner. So we took it from a small place, we've added some more, and we got to build it out. It's nowhere near where it needs to be. It's still pretty nascent, but we're on that path.
Thank you so much.
Jason, Ron had his hand up first. We'll come back to you before we hit it. So let me just tell you, Ron Matthews, the young lady here on the Sabuna, the gentleman here, the young person where Brother Fern Manning is, did you speak already?
I did.
Okay, and then the young person with the black hat, in that order, and then Jason Harden.
Thank you so much for your pictures, everyone. We'll get to you.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Ron Matthews, and I'm going to piggyback over something that she said and something that Ricky said. I'm on the executive committee of the Pasadena NAACP for the last 20 years. And I'm the chair of the Labor and Industry Committee. And I actually work with Ricky and Mark Stratton. And we recruited 60 young men and women of this town and been able to place 27 of them in construction-related employment. And the chief stood up and talked about getting 68 guns off the street. I'd like to be able to stand up and say I got 68 young men and women hired off the street. We have construction projects on every corner in this town. Let's do simple math. And we just got 5 people at 10 of the construction projects. That's 50 overnight, and that's the easy do. Thank you.
Help me. No, the young lady here, the Sabuna, and the young man here. And then back to gentleman or gentle lady near the girl and Manning, after Fern Manning. Go ahead.
I have more of a statement to the community. Like she said, we're 20 seconds away from the shooting. So the police won't really protect us. It takes us to protect us. I started a freedom school, right, this summer. I started Black Lives Matter Pasadena Freedom School, where we were able to take, 25 to 30 youth on field trips. And it was all donated by through the community. It was us donating for us, and I was able to get these kids up out the field, right? I've been doing this with y'all for how many years, Olivia? Like 6 or 5 years, right? And These kids, man, when you reach out to them, they'll respect. One of the kids who was shot were actually part of like, and so I'm taking like, this is like my heart and my burden. I'm feeling real hurt, and I'm feeling more than convicted. Like, we can beg these people, but it really takes us. Like the brother was saying, it takes us. But what are we going to vow today to do in our own community? How are we going to vow to reach out and teach these kids, right? So I just want everybody, I just was doing a call to action right now. Who's going to take this as a conviction to go back into your homes and figure out what is your gift that God gave you to do in your own community? Instead of begging the colonizers and begging folks who are out here to brutalize these others, you're begging them to come to a community to watch the gang members and to treat them like they're victims. Like, my kids were shot. So why don't you allow this whole other community finding the criminals? Right? So I just want you guys to pay attention to what they're doing and how they're raising us and our people. And to the mothers and the fathers that was out there, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and maybe we can do our own like watch. I'll be out there. What's the next time? No, I'm having a interesting. Okay. Thank you. We have another question for the panelists. Thank you.
Last night, around 2 o'clock on North Raymond Avenue, a wife and I were woken from what we thought was gunfire. Apparently, was 1080s going on. There are 2 questions. Is there a correlation between that kind of fireworks and gang violence? And 2, you recommend proactive measures that all of us here can get involved with, like neighborhood watch or something else to help you in this problem?
Well, I think definitely, we don't see a correlation, maybe Ricky can answer this very like it. We don't see a correlation between fireworks and gang violence. 2, yes, get involved in neighborhood watch. I like what Jasper had to say as far as community taking care of community. So yes, get involved. Yes, ma'am.
We have 2 weeks left for the Pasadena football. Our next, not this week, the next week, our game is home. We've done the necessary requests, trying to get it blocked off of everything. I understand everything that's going on, but the short-term thing, as far as these kids, what's going to be done for that day? That's what I want. Everything can happen, but what about that day? That's because all of this is streaming because of what happened with Margaret and they so mad on November 6th, the street being blocked off. What's going to be done for that specific day to help all of our parents and about what happened and how their kids could be safe? These kids been in this house for over 2 years. It's a pandemic. This is our guy's first year. What's going to be done for us that day?
Thank you for your question. Can I answer it real quick? So, the game plan that I told you about, as far as saturating the area, particularly when the kids are playing or having a lot of a big deployment in the area, that's going to continue for the next month or so. So on the 6th, that game plan will be in place.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Because I was being interrupted, I was just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as the blocking of the streets, so we can do our homecoming festivities and everything, we did the necessary thing. We gotta go through the proper channels to get it. Are we gonna get that too? These kids deserve that.
Right. Right now, as far as the street closure, the permits, you've got the permits and everything.
We requested that, I think we answer, but we just wanna know what we do, what we have, so we can know what we have to work with, so we know how to facilitate these things for these kids.
Thank you so much.
Hello. So your question is that you made a request to block the street for the children's program, is that correct?
Yes.
So I will ask the city manager, if you would just leave your information with the city manager, that we work with you for that purpose, because that's just for one day and it's a certain number of hours to enjoy. Okay? Thank you.
I know you got a question, we see your question, let me say this, because I think we just missed a golden opportunity right here, so I'm gonna make it real clear. She just asked, we got a game out here, we got some stuff going on for the next couple of days. Now, you got folks in the community, I just heard Pastor Curlin say, and people say that, hey, we'll put some t-shirts. Let me tell you this, when I say police in our community, you can do better than anybody else, because they gonna respect her when she come out here and say, y'all chill. They gonna respect those guys over there. So if y'all men, as well as y'all women, would say tonight, make a commitment, I'm gonna be in the park, I'm gonna have a bright t-shirt on to say safe community, so you can be out here in addition to their presence, but you have a presence. Because you know these folks better than anybody around this community. There's our kids out there on the field. We know it. So who's in here saying, I'm here with Pastor Curlin, I'm here with Jasmine, and I'm gonna have my shirt on saying I'm here to help to make sure that our kids are gonna be safe on the 6th. See, it's one thing when we chat, but see, when people call you to ask you what happens, we wanna argue, but we don't wanna say, okay, I'm that person. So who's gonna be that person tonight? Put your hand up high, don't be scared. There you go. So y'all see Pastor Curlin, and Pastor Curlin, just like he did it out in the rest of it, he will help with that. What you say, man? So you coordinated with Pastor Curlin. Right. That's right, and you're right. So you're right, man. So she's gonna do that, and then the other part you guys do. She got it, man. I know.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Mercedes Navarro. I've been getting my hair all this time, but I would like to tell you, I've been living in Summit Avenue for 20 years, 20 plus years. And what I've seen all of you officials please, we're being neglected big time over here in this area. One of them is that all our programs that we used to have, as Head Start, Early Head Start, or programs that used to work with the parents to help good parenting, they're gone. And you have to bring it back because we need it. It's urgent. Our kids are the future, and you don't see that. I can see that. You don't see that. I need explanations because our kids need a guidance. Our parents need a guidance.
Mercedes, I want to thank you for your heart, your passion, the fact that you were standing, and the fact that you waited so long to speak. I'll commit, and I'll ask the city manager to commit to talk to the responsible parties at the PUSD to do in fact have those conversations about bringing those resources back. From my vantage point, we get about $8 million a year from the city of Pasadena to the PUSD. I think your concerns are reasonable concerns. I want to thank you for bringing it to our attention. I also would ask that if you would leave your information so we won't have the speaker and I won't to the mic saying I didn't follow up. We are following up. Like the question about Morgan Street, we are in fact following up, and I want to make sure we follow up on your question, not just with a call, but with a solution. Thank you. There's a question in the back. The gentleman or gentle lady, the person with the hat, the black hat. No, the person with the black hat.
Good evening. My name is Tina Williams, and I used to be what we call council liaison for Jackie Robinson. 2007, there were 11 shoots, 7 in District 1. And much like tonight, a meeting was held. And much like tonight, there were concerns made. And then there was an ad hoc committee. And we studied the problem. And there was a convening of over 40 nonprofit agencies and community members who were from the center. I David Moses, Nelson, set it up. Mickey Pickens and others were a part of that. And I'm making this comment, this observation, because this isn't the first time. And before 2007, it wasn't the first time. And before that, it wasn't the first time. And so this is a piece of a puzzle that needs to be solved on one approach to me. It has to be multi-pronged. It has to be, maybe pointed to us in the community, but there's also a responsibility to empower and give the community the resources needed. My father Boyle said, nothing stops a bullet like a job. So we have to look at what is in the budget is going to be sustained, because there are programs that come and go. We have great programs in the city of Pasadena, some of those. So I'm making the question is, can you take out the questions, the things that have been made here, and do some really hardcore look at the budget? Our mayor said the budget is, upon us, and I would love to see us convene a small group of people and really look at the programs that have worked and how to sustain those in the budget.
Thank you. We have someone who wants to respond to that question.
I have a commitment from the chair of our finance committee that we'll do something extraordinary. I'm glad that Tina asked the question, because the mayor has just committed that we will convene a meeting, probably much more controlled, but to answer her question about programs and how we can get more programs to address many of the issues that have been shared tonight. And I think what she's saying is, we've been here before, but where is a sustained solution, not a solution that made us feel good for a week or a month or a year? We need solutions that will sustain us for generations. And that's going to be all of us working together. And what government can do is provide an avenue and use a portion, possibly, because we need 5 votes, of community development block grant money for that purpose. Now, the mayor keeps his word, and that's the word given. Mr. Harden in the block, we didn't overlook him. I asked him that he state his question for a moment, because it said, I think it's, what does that shirt say, Mr. Harden? Oh, so I'm just calling for the record on the television that we are calling The Life of a Boss, Mr. Jason Harden. Mr. Harden.
Anyway, I just want to say that I do agree with John in regards to we can't be so lazy. I do believe Mr. Pickens exactly that we are the solution, all of us are the solutions here. So that being said, I really don't come to these meetings for solutions, but I do come here for answers. One question I would have for Ms. Moody is how often should I ask is your investigative lanes and that proactive police work turns inward on the department? Because no, I don't expect you guys to be part of the solution, but I do expect you guys to be part of the problem. And I'm asking this because we just had a gun running away involving high-ranking members of the department, and a lot of us are not forget about this, but I don't forget about this. And I want to know what's being done within the department to check itself to make sure they're not part of the problem. And what assurance do we have that they're not part of this problem? Because gangs and police department go hand in hand with it. And I feel, I just want to ask you about that.
Any questions? Thank you.
Yeah, so the officer who was an officer at the time that was stoned him was convicted and sent to jail, right? So we do pay attention to what's going on. But now too, you have a police oversight commission, right? That's another pair of eyes looking into the police department. But we also have a city manager, mayor, and council members who look inside the police department to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do.
And I guess that's what I want to play to is accountability in the police department always enforced by somebody else? Do we have to expect outside agencies and outside commissions to police our police department?
Thank you very much, Jason, for that question, Mr. Harden. And I would say that we have a police commission that all of the members of the council work very hard to create. But I think it is not going to be an end all in terms of solutions, but it's an organization that will provide more oversight, more insight to the communities. Some of the people, maybe all of the people on that body, members of this audience respect, and they're going to be taking back information. That information is going to be coming directly to the city council and our city attorney. And so it is a good question. It's a legitimate question. And I would say to all of us, we have a responsibility, in my view, you don't have to share it, to hold all public officials accountable, not just police officers, but all. And I think what we get in that is a better community, And without being preachy, I think it's incumbent upon us to teach each other to love each other, embrace each other, promote each other. When I was a kid in the 60s, and I know I look like I'm a 70s kid, we had 24,000 African Americans in the city of Pasadena. We were the minority. But 24,000 strong. That is not the case today. And there are a lot of reasons for that are beyond politics. But politics is part of it. You have to pay attention, like all of you in this room. And I'm grateful that all of you are here in the room. And also, there's a huge amount of us that are on television watching. And they have not been given the opportunity to ask questions because they're not here. And some of them are not here tonight because of COVID, meaning they didn't want to take a chance. We all are taking a chance, but we're being smart about it because everybody in here, with me as an exception for the moment, are masked up. I think to be fair, we've gone about 90 minutes. I said that I would recognize two other speakers, and I'd like to do it in this order, if I may. There's a young lady here at the door. Okay. The young lady that you were standing by, and then the young lady at the entry door. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mi nombre es María Jiménez.
Just one moment.
She's gonna help, she has a translator here. She has a translator.
Okay, go ahead.
Mi nombre es María Jiménez y soy madre de Ernesto Ramos. Lo único que quiero que sepan, que no quiero que otra madre esté sufriendo lo que yo estoy sufriendo. A mí,
My name is Maria Jimenez and I lost my son on November 13th. He got shot, he got killed. And I don't want other mothers to suffer what I suffered, and I don't want her to go what I'm going through.
no quiero que otra madre esté sufriendo lo que yo estoy sufriendo. A mi hijo le dieron 21 balazos.
My son got shot, he received 21 gunshots.
10 personas al mismo tiempo
mismo dispararon, person shot at the same time. Solo iba caminando por la calle oyendo su música, sin hacer nada. He went there for a walk, hearing music. He was an innocent person walking at the wrong time at the wrong place. Me dijo una venganza, me dijo le va a todo el mundo. He was not a mean person, he was not related with anything. He was so friendly with every single person in the community. Lo que yo quiero que no nomás los policías tienen que trabajar, también los padres tienen que ver sus hijos, lo que están haciendo. Not only the police needs to work, we as the parents, we need to work with our sons and to see where they're going. La policía no puede estar 24 horas cuidando a nuestros hijos. Uno de madre tiene que hablar con ellos, educarlos, enseñarles el mal y el bien. The police, they don't have time to take care of our kids 24 hours. We as the parents, we need to be taking care of them and to see what's going on. Lo que yo de la policía, que vigilen un poquito más las calles también, para que no haya más asesinatos y más dolor como que yo estoy llevando. The only thing that she wants more patrol on the street and not happen anywhere she's going. I'm so sorry for you.
For all the parents in the room who have lost a child, I can honestly say that we are sorry, and we want to prevent that from occurring. I think the young lady who just spoke is speaking to all of us, saying that it's going to take all of us working together to ensure that that's not repeated. And right now, I can tell you there may be forces that would like to tear us apart. And I would say, based upon those who are viewing, by watching this by television, and those of you who are in the room, we're really stepping forward and encourage to say that if we work together, we can find the solutions to prevent another child from being destroyed. And I ask that all of you, black, brown, red, yellow, white, we come together as one community and really fill that community to build a different pathway, so we don't have mothers who are distraught by losing the most precious in their lives, in our lives, a child. Because every parent that I know says to us that I've never expected, or I expect to have my child outlive me. I do not want to bury my child. And every parent that I know never really fully gets over it. They may be able to manage, but they never fully get over it. So my heart goes out to you. I feel what you've shared, and I think it was courageous for you to share how you feel. Thank you for doing that. The speaker said that we shouldn't just have meetings when something bad happens. We should have meetings regularly to address finding solutions. And repeating what you just said, so we can have it for our viewing audience. Young lady, please.
Thank you for taking my question. I'm not a lifelong member of Pasadena, but I am a Kennedy. And what we've heard, the reason why this meeting is being held is because the police department has failed this community in the event of these shootings. This police department has failed Northwest Pasadena over and over and over again. That's what I've heard. I've heard that this community is under-resourced and over-policed. So my question is, talking about the failure of the police department and noticing that the police are right around the corner, but they still fail. That's another question. So my question is, given this failure and keeping failure over and over again, why is the mayor, council member, speaker of city manager, the police, and representative of the police, are you thinking it's appropriate to implement a program called Shots Fired and allocate $220,000 for it instead of directly to the students?
So, the question was to the city manager and all the city council as it relates to implementing a program called Shot Spotters. And the city manager spoke about Shot Spotters earlier in the evening, that there would be a triangulation when there is a gun fired within approximately 82 feet to help the police officer or police officers know exactly where that shot took place so they can come to the area and either render aid or find the person who shot that weapon. Although I did not vote for that, I am still going to be held accountable because I am part of the city council. And it is another tool that our police department will use to see if in fact it's going to add value. I refuse to point fingers at my other colleagues who voted for it. The objective is to see if it will work. If it does not work, I'll be the first to stick with my no vote and yank it. But let's give it an opportunity to work as it relates to policing. Now, there's a young No. Excuse me. It's approximately $600,000 over a period of time, not 600 in 1 year, but it's approximately $600,000. And the objective again is to reduce shooting. It's to put some fear in those who would want to do bad in our community, because we're going to find them if they're discharging a firearm. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, we'll move to another program. But that does not answer the question about programs. We'll still be dealing with programs through the budget process. So at this time, if I may, I'd like to introduce Brenda Harvey Williams, who is the Director of Parks and Recreation, and she'll talk to us about some of the programs that exist right now for our children within her department. So Brenda, I see.
Good evening, and I'll be brief because I know that these matters are pressing, but I do want to, first of all want to thank you, council member, mayor, and other city managers who are here, but I do want to let you know that Pasadena does have some programs that children can get involved in right now. We do have a lot of children participating, but we do still have openings and vacancies, and we would love to have your children participate. So just very briefly, I also want to explain that under the leadership of the mayor and the city council, during these times of COVID, we greatly reduced the fees that we charge. We almost took them, we considered taking them down to free, but we made them at $10, and that's a thing, $10. We made them at $10 just so parents wouldn't sign up for things and not come. If it were free, sometimes people sign up and they don't value it. So we made the fee $10. So let me tell you some of the things you could get and enroll children for just $10. This past summer, we had summer camp. It was $10 per week. Normally for Pasadena residents, it would be $95 per week, but it was $10 per week. We also did swim lessons this past summer, $10 per week. We only operate our swimming pools in the summertime. But currently, we are running youth sports. We have flag football, volleyball, basketball, and soccer. Anybody want to guess how much we charge to be on one of our teams? $10, that's right. We also have the summer, our department operates the Rose Intern Program, where we hire 165 young people between the ages of 14 and 24. Another thing we did, we used to call it the Summer Rose Program and only employ them during the summer. But we took it this past year to a year-round program, partly because of COVID. Couldn't really work much during the summer, but we're allowing those young people to work throughout the school year. They can work in our city departments. We have some placements with the school district and some other nonprofits, but it's 165 young people who have the opportunity to earn a $1,500 stipend by working with us for 200 hours. We have a teen center at La Pintoresca Park. Normally, there's a fee of $50 per year to join that. This year, right now, the fee to participate in the teen center is not $10, it's actually free. So any 12 to 18-year-olds can come to our teen center and be involved in programming and services and field trips and a lot of discussions that they have about life and how to move forward in life. We also have an ambassador program where we hire high school students to serve as docents, and we pay them minimum wage to work at different city events. They can be a part of that for 4 years of high school. And we have vacancies and openings and availability in every program I just mentioned. We can be found at cityofpasadena.net, park, and rec. I'm here, I'll be here after the meeting if anybody wants more information. We would love to have your children. There are programs, I know it's not enough, but I do want you to know what we do have, and we would sports leagues in our town. We've been talking about the Giants football league. They're amazing. They play and practice here at Robinson Park. We do have all of our parks available for football league, for little league, for other soccer leagues. So please take advantage of what is here. And we are, I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I consider these to be my children as well. I raised 2 children in this community. So I do, and I think we all do, take it to heart. We love these kids and we only want to see the best for them. And we do have some ways to help them. So please participate in what we have. And I appreciate your support in enabling us to do even more things. Thank you.
Let me just react to the shot spotter, because I did support that. And as your mayor, I have a responsibility to explain why I supported that. Nobody has the right to fire the firearm in our city. Certainly not in our neighborhoods, and certainly not in our park. And if that tool allows our police department, as every time we hear shots, somebody talked about M80s on North Raymond Ave, somebody talked about shots fired in the park or in the neighborhood. I get those calls. And I get those calls from people who are concerned about what's happening in their neighborhood. So that tool allows a couple of things. One, the police department to respond and arrest someone who's fired a weapon in our neighborhood. Then I support that. Because nobody has the right to fire a weapon in our neighborhood or in our park. Anywhere. Because all it does is deter families who want to use the park from being in the park. 2, if there's someone injured by that weapon, then it allows the fire department, the police department to respond and render aid. And who, raise your hand, is against that? I'm certainly not, because I've gotten the calls, and I was out there at Villa Park when the young man that was shot and injured, and the police have to respond, and the fire department has to respond. And the quicker that they respond, they can save a young man's life or a young person's life. And so that's the other reason I supported it. A lot of people in this room said it was the wrong thing to do, but let me tell you something. If it's my child out there, or a family member, or one of my neighbors that's been injured, I wouldn't say it's the wrong thing to do. And if it's someone firing a weapon in our parks, whether it's Robinson Park or Villa Park or any of our neighborhoods, they don't have a right to do that. And so if we can catch them and put them away, then we have to do that. Because otherwise it holds the rest of us hostage in our own neighborhoods, and I'm not willing to support that.
Hi, my name is Denise. I was born and raised here in Pasadena. My question, I have a couple of questions. First question is for the shot fire system. Are we going to guinea pigs of this, or has it been tried in other counties, and how did it work out? Second question, I'm getting to that. Second question is, you guys spent $600,000 for a program for 3 years, instead of putting it in the community, which that sounds like that's not going to stop the gun from getting shot off, or still from get injured. You said it's 85 or 87,000 feet. 80 something. That sounds like it's only telling you the area. So what happens if a group of our kids in the car are walking in that area? How does that stop a high racial profile? If you guys stop in every car or every kid that's walking to see if they're going to take it, how does that help?
The shot spotter in and of itself is going to solve the problem. There's no question in my mind about that. What's going to solve the problem is what we talked about: more programs for kids, keeping the costs down so that kids can participate, jobs. But the shot spotter is not intended to stop all of that. It's intended to provide a more accurate response, but it's not going to be the solution. And that was precisely the debate. Now, $600,000 is a lot of money, but we need to also keep in mind what we're doing for jobs programs. Ron Matthews talked about taking kids and putting them into apprenticeship programs. We're talking about allowing kids to participate. In my view, and I press for this, I'll continue to press for this, there shouldn't be a charge for kids to participate in the program. But, we went a line of $10 only because we were convinced that if you're going to charge something, then people don't make the added effort to make sure that your kids participate. So I commit to you, and I know that members of the city council commit to you, that we will keep those costs down. Now the role of all of us in this room is to ensure that all of the kids are being registered in those programs, and that they're showing up and participating in those programs.
So we come to the time, about 2 hours meeting. I think we've given almost everyone an opportunity that's inside the building to ask the question, and some to do more than just ask the question, to give their views. I think we've been fair to everyone, but I also want to say something that I find unique about everybody in the room. All of you know at least 10 people who are not here in Pasadena. I hope that you will take back the information you've learned, and even if it's that you need to protest more to get what you want, and you will organize in an effective way to get that, if it benefits our community. I see all of you as leaders, and that's important in terms of building the community. I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. Those who are viewing by our KPAS system. We put this meeting together in one day. So just think, like one of the speakers said, if we organized and had several weeks to bring the community together to talk about issues and a way forward, how even more powerful that would be. So at this time, I'd like to thank all the staff from the city of Pasadena. I'd like to ask Vanya Dela Cuba to come forward. I'd like to ask Tina Rios. I'd like to ask Susana Flores. Susana is my district liaison. And Vanya Dela Cuba, right here, so everybody can see. Don't try to hide, they don't up there. Vanya Dela Cuba is on the left. Tina's an intern in my office. Susana, and Vanya represents the mayor. So in a sense, she's everywhere. Susana Flores represents District 3. Tina Rios Rowe represents my office as an intern. All three of them are extraordinary leaders, and I just want all of you, if you would, give them a round of applause. All of the staff who set up for the meeting that work for Brenda Harvey Williams. I know this is a bit much, but if you would indulge me, if you would come forward, I'd appreciate it. Hello? If you all would come forward. Yeah, seriously, so the people can see. It's important our staff to work in this hope to keep us safe, keep the programs going. And they love children because they all have children. So thank you. And I ask at this time, one of the strong leaders in the clergy community, Pastor Gene Birch, to come and close us out. Thank you all. Thank you.